or someone has sponsored a table. And so a portion of that obviously goes to pay for the event, but then a portion of it also goes into a pot of money that they get to spend during the night on artworks that will come to the museum. So we know beforehand how much money they will spend, or have to spend, and then we bring in more artwork, dollar value, than that amount. So their vote really does matter, and we don't end up with everything. We have never ended up with everything, either in Blacktail or in Collector Circle, I think. So people think sometimes, oh, they just get all of it, but it's not true. They really don't. So
where does the artwork come from?
So this time it came from, we went to local galleries and picked out pieces that we thought would be beneficial for the museum. So we went to Altamira, we went to Talo Piggott, Heather James, Deal Gallery, and the Stable, which is also called Visions West Contemporary, which is over by the Art Lab. And then we visited a couple other places, but we didn't always find something that we thought everybody, or that we would want in other galleries. So, and in the past, it's been a combination of local galleries, and then Bronwyn's gone to places like Art Basel and found really cool things there. So it's been a big combo. And then next year, once we get our new associate curator on board, I'm hoping that she'll do the same thing. This will be kind of her responsibility. So, we'll start off here with Tom Ross. This is called Portrait of the Artist as a Young Man from 2017. And this work references a piece Tom Ross installed in 1983 along Highway 22, which featured 154 cutout plywood ravens sitting on fence posts lining the road. So you might remember this, or you might not. And for him, it was a really successful and memorable work. And he was asked to recreate it years later with steel ravens, the sale of which raised about $5,000 to help seed the Center for the Arts. So you might see some of these ravens around town. There's steel ones that some people have, and then there's also these plywood. Yeah.
We love ours.
So this was really cool. I mean, there's all these ravens all along both sides of.
Like they're the same. Are they all the same?
They're all exactly the same.
All exactly
Yep.
the same size.
So, like, kind of like, you know, he's done around the edge there. So for us, this piece would be first in the collection by Tom Ross. It would allow us to talk about art that happens in the valley, you know, beyond museum walls. And it would be a great tie to the ravens that constantly circle over our building and all of our houses. So that was piece number 1 that we talked about, and we'll just talk about the fox now since we're here.
Guys, I'm starting up. Can you move this way?
We're right, we're going that way.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Good morning.
So this piece, it's funny, and it's one of those funny stories that I've sometimes told you in the past, where once a piece gets to a dealer or to an auction house, we don't really know what the actual name of it is or what the artist named it. So this piece, the gallery gave it to us, and they told us it was named Barney. But I emailed with the artist, and she said, the name Barney is new to me. I know that as Fox number 7. So, it doesn't really matter, but what will be funny is how we name it in the catalog, because people have kind of grown fond of that name. Anyway, so Wendy Klemperer is the artist, and she received a bachelor's degree in biochemistry at Harvard, which is kind of interesting background. But after that, she decided to move to New York and pursue art full-time. And she uses industrial materials to create these beautiful lifelike forms. She's interested in conveying movement and a sense of personality in each of her works, bringing lines of rebar or other metals together to create what she has called three-dimensional drawings. So I think that's a really neat idea, three-dimensional drawings, or sketches in air. Isn't that a cool thought, kind of? So this would be the first work by Klemperer in the collection, and would prompt visitors to fill in the form of the creature they're seeing. And they also prompt questions about the place of wildlife in our industrialized era. This is a wild creature, but it's made out of all these like industrial heavy metal kind of materials. So it's really interesting juxtaposition. All right, so we will go to this group of 3 over here. I'm going to stand right where you're
Sorry,
going.
here. I thought I'd get out of your way.
So we'll start off with this great piece by Peter Haslam Fox, who's a Brit. He won the Royal Watercolor Society. He won their Best Young Artist Award in 2008. In a roundup of that year's winners, this is kind of a funny comment. One blogger commented that Peter does not have a website, but he does work for a gallery. So, as an up-and-coming artist, I thought that was pretty classic. Works at a gallery, but doesn't have a website. So this is, it's called Hooded Hawk, but it's probably a gyrfalcon, right, and a trained falcon. And so just a little note on his methods. He uses the whiteness of his paper as a starting point and builds up from there. So he relies on a lot of negative space. So all of this whole thing is very important to the composition. He wouldn't do this and then like cut, the paper off right there. Say, oh, I didn't use that part of the paper, so I'm going to trim that. The whole thing is really important to give the sense of composition that he wants. And so this would be the first work by Haslam Fox in the collection and would allow us to talk about watercolor as a medium. It's a really beautiful watercolor. As well as the long-time fascination we as humans have had with falconry, part of our ever-evolving relationship with the wild creatures who share this planet. So falcons are so interesting because they're, especially trained ones, right on that edge of domestic and wild, and they're really cool birds to talk about. So we'll go to talk about Jane Rosen for a moment on the end. That piece is called Mantle. Jane Rosen has had a successful career creating and teaching art since the 1970s. She currently resides in Northern California, where she finds inspiration in the bird life that circles and often lands outside her studio window. So this has some really cool media in it. It has coffee, watercolor, and ink in it. So it's a whole bunch of different things in there, and I love that it has coffee. So it helps show her artistic process, investigating different colors, forms, and postures of one of her signature subjects, the hawk. So in our collection already, we have one large piece by her. It's a glass sculpture of a hawk, and then it's on a stone pedestal when we have it out. So if you imagine pairing these two objects, it'd be really fun to look at those two things together and talk about her creative process and use of different media. So that is Jane Rosen's Mantle. And last but not least, over here, the only non-technically contemporary artist, living artist, is Pablo Picasso. And so you know a little bit about this, but many people don't realize that Picasso launched a successful ceramic career in the 1940s and produced over 600 designs over the course of 25 years. So there are quite a few Picasso ceramics out there. This little bowl features a bird perched on a branch and exemplifies the simplified style he would have used in many of these pieces. And then, so how was this produced? He would have produced an original template that then would have been copied by artisans over the run of each plate. And you can see, if you look closely at this, the design is incised into the clay. So that gave the people who ended up painting it the lines to follow, if you will, so that it's created in the way that he wanted. So someone was comparing these ceramics to limited edition prints. It's an affordable way to collect something by Picasso that has some relationship to the actual artist. These were actually produced in pretty high numbers. There might be 500 of these bowls out there.
But it's a completed edition.
I don't even know if in some of these they didn't even number them. So, but yeah, I don't think that they're still making them today. So we have one set of etchings by Picasso and 2 other ceramics. And it's a real pleasure when people come into the building and they see Picasso. They're like, wow, that's fantastic. So it's a good artist for us to have. And then, last but not least, we'll go over there. Finely detailed subjects, often focusing on brief moments that prompt us to create a narrative. So you can see very abstract in the background, and then, you know, kind of like Lillifor's, creates focus by painting these subjects a little bit more tightly. And what's really funny in this is the imagined conversation that these two might have been having that has caused this reaction. So what has Anthony done that has made Camilla do what she's doing right now? It's very familiar, I think, to many of us. What did I say? I didn't mean to. So this would be the first work by Hillock to enter the collection. It would be a great piece to interpret with our younger visitors. It immediately begs that question. Like, you can ask people, what do you think just happened here? What were they talking about? So that is all basically I have to say about that one. Did I do all of them? Yeah. So those were the 6 that we offered. And so during the course of the night, we have ballots and people circle their favorite each round. And then first round we bought one piece, second round we bought another piece, etc. So I wanted for us as a test group, if you all, I'll just go through each one and you raise your hand when I call out your favorite or what you would have voted for first.
Just one choice.
One choice. So what would be your first choice? How about, let's start with Tom Ross. Okay, 1 for Tom Ross. How about the Fox? 1 for the Fox. How about the Hooded Hawk, the Falcon? 2 for that. How about the Picasso? Let's come over here. So we had 1 for Tom Ross, 1 for Barney, 1 for the Hooded Hawk.
No, 2.
2 for the Hooded Hawk. How about for the Picasso? Okay. And then how about for Jane Rosen? 2 for Jane Rosen. And then how about for the Owls? 1.
This one's first.
All right. So not a clear distinction. But I will tell you that the votes were really pretty clear that night, and then the 2 high school groups that came in voted exactly along the same lines as the members of the dinner did.
Really?
So
That's kind of amazing.
the first piece that got the most votes in all of these groups was the Owls, so that's what we bought first. Second, most votes was the Fox, so that was 1, 2, and then the Hooded Hawk was 3rd. Then Jane Rosen was 4th. And at that point, they had spent most of their money. So there wasn't enough money in the pot left to buy anything else. So then there was some fundraising that happened in the room, and they raised enough money to buy the Picasso. So the only thing that we didn't get was the Tom Ross.
Oh, sure.
Right, which was a little surprising to me because of the local history kind of tie, but
Everybody likes him.
as I've said many times, people ask me, what do you think is going to go first, or what do you think we're going to end up with? I don't ever have any idea, and anytime I guess, I'm wrong. So there you go. Any questions, or do you want to talk about anything more specifically out here?
So the fox sculpture, will it go outdoors on the trail, or is it meant to stay in?
I bet she would tell you it could go outside, but for us, it's not treated or coated with anything that already has some rust on it. So we could say we're going to coat it with something and put it outside, or we could say if we put it outside, it'll probably rust, and that's okay with us. So we'd have to make that decision. For me, I think we will leave it inside for a while, at least, and see what happens. So. All right.
Thanks,
Should
Adam.
we go talk about the Bugatti for a minute?
Oh, yeah.